you, Sushilji, and thank you, friends. Chidanandji will be coming little late, and so Sushilji has requested me to start this meeting. And today's topic is escapes that the human mind finds. So this word escape that brings the image of a prison, and from the prison where there is no freedom, people, when they are in the prison, they like to escape from the prison. And sometimes those criminals are able to escape from the prison also. But that is a very limited freedom. In the prison, we don't have much freedom. Outside the prison, we can walk around, look around, there is a freedom to do what we like. But that is also, that is only the physical freedom. That there is no psychological freedom. Even when we are outside the prison in our daily life of activities, where we, if our life is very mechanical, with habits, with addictions, and we have to do what we have to do, and in that there is no happiness, then that is also being like in a prison of the mind. And most of us are in that prison. As for example, students, they don't like to study, they don't like to go to school, they like to play, but they have to go to school, they have to study many subjects, which they find it very a big burden. And so these students, they are busy from Monday to Saturday. And so Sunday, they like to escape and they like to watch a film or go for a walk and do something which they really enjoy. And this is true for most people, teachers also, if they find teaching very, very tiring because there are too many students in the classroom and they are not listening, they are in disorder, and the teacher has to shout and to teach and complete the syllabus. So in that also there is no happiness. That is also like being in a prison. So what is real freedom? And that is the freedom when we don't have the conflict within us between what we are supposed to do and what we are doing. That means a teacher who really enjoys teaching and meeting students and communicating with students, not only about physics or mathematics or history, but about our life, how we live. So if a teacher who is interested in teaching, he looks forward to go to the classroom to see the students. Such a teacher is not in the prison because his mind is free to teach, to learn, and to do everything. And similarly, for students who are really interested, and I feel that there are very few students who are interested to be in the classroom, and if they have the freedom to go out of the classroom, they would prefer to go out and play. That is more freedom for them, playing football or something going to a restaurant or seeing a film and so on, that is something which they enjoy doing, and so they don't feel being in the prison. But otherwise, most people, the way we live, is like being in the prison. I, I have given once the example of Nelson Mandela, the South African leader. He was in the jail for many, many years, a political prisoner. And when he came out after many years from the prison, and then a thought came to his mind, and he said that if I still carry the bitterness of the past, what happened to him in Africa, then if he carries the bitterness, then he is still in the prison. So this is really a wonderful insight Nelson Mandela got about what real freedom means. It doesn't mean just being able to walk around and do the activities which you like to do. That can also become very tiring sometimes. But the real escape from the prison is the prison of the mind. The mind itself is creating many prisons for us, like fear. If there is a fear in us, we are in the prison, or anger, or jealousy, or loneliness, or boredom. These are all like being in a prison. It doesn't allow us to live freely with real love, happiness, creativity. So, prison is in the mind, and the freedom from that prison is also within us. When we normally, what happens that when we don't like to do, like students or people working in the office, they get very bored and tired at the end of the day, and then they would like to escape into some entertainment, whether it's a music or a film or a sports, and doing something like that. So that gives certain kind of freedom, better than working in the office or studying all the time. But still, that is a temporary escape. Watching a film or listening to music, for a time, we forget our problems. But when that is over, then the next day we have to again go to the school or go to the office and do our work. And so there is a big contrast between what we have to do and what we like to do. So there is a conflict, and that conflict also, it means being in the prison. So what does it mean to be really free, and how can that happen? Because as long as we are escaping in entertainment, in smoking or drinking or drugs or politics or sports or music and so on, as long as we are escaping, that is all right for a short period. But the real freedom comes when we begin to understand what is behind this mental prison, like fear or anger or jealousy and so on. So, as long as we escape from that, the problem remains. At temporary, it is forgotten. So, what Krishnaji is telling us is not to escape from fear or anger or boredom, because boredom is also a big problem in this modern world, in spite of having many things to do. And so instead of escaping by turning on the TV or a mobile, if we can just be quiet and watch what is this boredom. And if we can watch clearly whatever is arising in the mind, thoughts, which say, I like it, I don't like it, and so on, the internal chattering of the mind, if that can be seen clearly, then that is the freedom. And that's why Krishnaji says freedom is at the beginning. That means ability to sit quietly, to have a very curious, attentive mind, to watch what is happening in our brain, mind, thoughts. And if we can see thoughts and feelings exactly as they are and not trying to change it, moving with what is, not what should be, not saying that I should have a better thought or a better feeling, or saying that this is very boring. Like many times, even little children, they say it is very boring, but they don't ask what is boredom. So when a student asks such a question, that what is boredom, what is anger, what is fear, how do they come in our mind? Is it possible to watch the beginning of it? So only when such a question comes, and not just an intellectual question, but it is a vital question which makes your mind stop and look. Krishnaji calls it impossible question. And such a question also indicates that there is a sensitivity and there is a freedom to, to look within our own mind. We cannot change other people because in our life we try a lot to change other people, but it is very difficult. We can probably change our own our own self, our own mind, and there's a possibility of that freedom exists, the escape, the real escape from the prison of the mind is possible when there's a curiosity, there's the attentiveness, there's a passion to look, turn the attention inward. Because our life is such that our mind is always directed to the things which are outside, whether it is politics or sports or film or music or whatever. Uh, our mind, our senses are looking at things outside, and then the thoughts are coming mechanically without really observing it. So when there is a curiosity comes in our mind to look at the mind itself, not escape from boredom, not escape from anger, but watch how this is arising. And a person who is interested in being free from smoking has to watch when he smokes how the smoke goes inside the lungs and what is happening to the body. So only when there is a curiosity and attentiveness to look inward clearly, that is the first step. And then if it really happens and one really feels the beauty of looking inward, looking at thoughts and feelings without changing it, without interfering it, then that watching itself becomes a kind of an entertainment. Then we don't really need so much escape. We can really watch what is as it is arising in our mind. And that tells us everything about ourselves. There's a self knowledge, there's a freedom. And that is the real escape from the prison of the mind itself. Okay, now I think Chidanandji has come. So I will stop now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harshad sir.
Yeah.
Chidanandji, would you please continue now?
Oh, okay. Thank you all for the adjustment, and thank you, Harshad ji. Even the last 2 or 3 sentences you made a lot of sense to me, and I will practically elaborate on that itself. So we have this topic, the various forms of escape that the human mind invents. The human mind meaning the mind of every one of us. Every one of us plays a certain deception, alas, with ourselves. It is one thing to deceive others, which is itself bad, but then there is what we are going to discuss now, self-deception. This finding an escape is a form of self-deception, and it strengthens the self. It brings about more deformities, more contradictions in oneself. Finding an escape from what actually is, rather than facing what is, trying to get some comfort, some artificial pleasure in the so-called escape, makes everything more complicated than ever before. So I must clarify at this point what we mean by escape and why we call it escape. I think a simple example will make matters a bit clear, though I must confess, examples, illustrations, stories, jokes, and all those give us a deceptive clarity. In order to understand something really, we must not depend on examples. That's another interesting topic. We must understand the problem as it is, rather than going for something which is parallel, which is similar, uh, which has some common ground with this problem and so on. Yet, let me give a simple example. There is a certain unhappy family. The man is not happy with his wife. The wife is not happy with the children. The children are not happy with the man, nor is the wife happy with the man. In other words, members of the family are not happy with each other. They fight, they quarrel, they argue with each other. Somehow the chemistry doesn't match between any two of the members of the family, having maybe 4 or 5 members. And in between, a development takes place. Suddenly, the man of the house becomes very well known in the town. The man of the house, it could be woman also, but for simplicity, I am saying man, no gender bias here. The man of the house is on newspapers, on TV channels, and whatnot, because of late he has been helping many social causes. He goes to some orphanage every week and helps them grow bigger. He, even helps poor students study better, gives some financial help to them, and so on. Even his neighbors are happy. The neighbors also say to the wife, "Your husband is such a good man. I wanted some help other day and he immediately helped me." And the wife is aghast. "What? My husband? A good man? I never found any goodness in him." That kind of scenario. Now, without going long, the matter is this. The man himself was not at peace really, but yes, he was into a lot of social service, therefore he had become a little popular. But because he was suffering from lack of peace, lack of real solace, he went to a counselor, and the counselor brought this word which we are discussing this evening. After listening to the man for a full 1 hour, the counselor said, "Oh, my dear friend, sorry to tell you, I am being very frank with you. This social service, helping an orphanage, helping the neighbors, going to Haridwar, Rishikesh, or some holy place and doing some charity at some ashrams. Sorry to tell you, all this is an escape that you have found, you have invented." The man was unable to understand. What do you mean? I am trying to help people who are suffering. The counselor said, "Actually, you have so much conflict with your wife, with your children, and it is clear to me you don't want to face them. You don't want to sit and listen to them. When you are into an argument with your own wife or your own grown up son, you don't want to patiently notice what is happening, either from that side or more importantly, from your own side. What actually gets so agitated in you? What actually gets into a frenzy? What actually makes you very, very hurting statements and embarrass them? You don't want to see it. What you have done, my dear friend, the counselor says to this husband, is of late in recent years, you found this orphanage and that school and these poor students and these neighbors who are in help, etc., as a wonderful way to keep away from this wife and children, saying I have to go to orphanage, saying I have to come to meeting where I am the chief guest, saying I have to cut a ribbon at this place, saying I have to light a lamp at that place. You are actually escaping from confrontation with your own family. Now, enough of this example. The word escape is now considered in this sense. You have a certain contradiction in yourself. You have perhaps not understood yourself. You have not understood your family members. Rather than paying attention to what actually is the crux of the matter, you find some comfort zones. And the social service is another respectable comfort zone. And I cooked up this example upon reflecting a little over or upon Krishnaji's statement itself. When some people, I think in one of the chapters of commentaries on living, when some people who are into a lot of social service visit Krishnaji, Krishnaji talks to them, finds out what they are busy with, and he is able to see that they are a little proud of the social service they are doing. They are a little bit, proud, conceited that we are such noble people. We live for others, you see. We hardly do anything for ourselves. Our money, our time, our energy is all for the society. Wow. They seem to ride on a high wave of self adoration. Krishnaji saw through the falsity. And these are all my comments, but Krishnaji's one statement in that particular chapter, I don't know, remember which chapter it is, in one of the three series, as you know, commentaries on living. Krishnamurti asked those visitors very gently, isn't this social service another escape that the human mind has invented? That's it. I don't know whether those visitors understood it or not, but for me, though that statement, that question that Krishnaji asked those visitors in that chapter in commentaries on living was a very thought provoking question. So, Krishnaji calls religion as possibly an escape. Even a lot of other fields like scientific research doesn't have to be, but in some cases, a scientist might find some kind of solace and peace and an escape from the regular society. He might spend more and more time in the laboratory. He may love the subject to some extent, we don't deny, but to a certain extent, probably he doesn't want to go home and meet his wife, who to him comes across as a nagging woman. Or if the scientist is a woman, she might be avoiding her husband, spends overtime at her laboratory. Maybe in her eyes, the husband comes across as too opinionated, too dominating, too aggressive, or whatever. So when you and I in relationships find somebody getting on our nerve, then there are two approaches possible. One is try to understand what the other person is doing and try to understand our own reaction. But many of us don't have the patience. We just want to say, I'm always right and the other person is always wrong. But then when the strain in the relationship escalates, again, not having the patience, not having the broad mindedness, not being able to slow down and examine things, what we do is we just rush out of the place, workplace or home or some institution, wherever it is. We just rush out of that place and then find one of these escape routes. Social service, spending time in some ashram, etc., are respectable in the society. A laboratory, especially if it's a renowned laboratory, and you are at a library. Where had you gone? Oh no, I was at the library. Which library? Oh, that famous library, that huge library. This is in the whole country, there are hardly two or three such big libraries. And I spend a lot of time at the library. One says with certain air about it. But the inside story could be one is running away from certain challenges that one has to actually meet. Now, I use the adjective respectable escape. Are there escapes which are not respectable? There are, of course. Many people go for drinking, go on alcohol, Many people smoke. In fact, drinking per se may not be wrong. The whole Western world drinks some alcohol in parties, get-togethers, etc. In India also, not everyone who drinks some whiskey or beer is necessarily, off track. There are many good people who take some drinks. There are many people who smoke a little. Though some puritanical people in certain, especially so-called religious circles, look at drinking or smoking or meat or restaurant food or cinema or one of those, as though something very sinful. That is their outlook. God bless them. God forgive them. If you think about it seriously and philosophically, any of those in moderate, quantity is okay. You know. If you say that is not okay, there are so many other things which are also not okay. Pure vegetarians also have their own bad habits. Those who don't touch alcohol have their own bad habits. Bad habits come in so many different colors, so many hues. Bad habits, bad lifestyle, bad things don't have to be smoking, drinking, etc. only. Okay. Now, in one word, pleasure. Pleasure is very often a major escape route. Many of us, even when we are not hungry, go and open the fridge or open whatever, Oh, there is some samosa here. We put into the mouth. Because that samosa, that jalebi goes into the mouth, and probably there are some hormones or enzymes or whatever secretions take place in the body, starting with sensation in the mouth. There are things that happen all the way in the brain, and I don't know where others. You must study anatomy and physiology for understanding it in the modern medical language. But definitely, when a jalebi is placed in the mouth, a lot of things happen in the body, and we forget our problems. We shut our eyes to certain real challenges. Therefore, pursuit of pleasure, various forms of sense enjoyments are indeed forms of escape. And in contrast, as you and I realize that going for this or that escape doesn't solve the problem. Number one, it only extends the problem. We postpone the solution. Number two, alas, that's more serious. By the time we wake up, our ability, our energy, our availability to attend to a problem, psychological problem, might reduce a lot. In fact, the Vedanta works use a word, prajna. Prajna is a word, in Bhagavad Gita also it is used in chapter 2 towards the end of the chapter. Whoever is much attached to sense pleasures loses his prajna, Sri Krishna says. And this word prajna has tremendous significance. Prajna can mean uh, not just, the word intelligence is a very good translation, but what does it mean? It is ability to see things, his ability to distinguish the true from the false, his ability to understand another person. Prajna is ability to get out of a shell of mechanical behavior. If we lose prajna because of all these escapes, whether it is sense pleasure or getting attached to social service, getting attached to some hobbies, maybe respectable hobbies, uh, here and there we find psychological comfort. Some of us, like to, as the idiom goes, we like to bask in reflected glory. I met the minister other day, whole evening I spent with him. And last month I was in Delhi. I was with, one of the players who won the World Cup cricket this recently. I was with him, I was with her. And I will show you a photograph of me posing with a Bollywood star. Wait, wait, wait. You are with a Bollywood star, with a minister, with a cricketer, and you have a photograph to show. What are you trying to say? Most people don't understand. They bask in the reflected glory. So as you and I, you know, indulge in this kind of useless, pithless, worthless, escapes, our prajna becomes less and less. In contrast, not because of control of senses, as most of you know, Krishnaji had a lot of objection to this business of control, especially the way most people understand, or I should say, misunderstand it. So when there is suppression, there is control, there is immature handling of our own emotions and urges, then things get more messy. We can see that. Not that way, but when there is certain mature handling of our thoughts, of our emotions, all of which requires paying attention, then the same prajna grows, rises, rises. In Indian spiritual tradition, it has been believed. This Indian spiritual tradition, into which I am quite a bit in a sense, is also very puzzling and very perplexing affair. With over 40 years of involvement in Vedanta, for example, for me, you know, sometimes I deeply appreciate all this. So therefore, that's why I am in that field. But sometimes I wonder whether all this has caused more confusion than done good, because a large number of people hold on to concepts, hold on to words, hold on to the pleasure of reciting something, hold on to symbols, hold on to gurus. Large number of people hold on to some institutions, and they also want to reflect in what you call it, bask in reflected glory, to stand next to a very well-known Swamiji. Or why come down on Hinduism only? You stand next to a Dalai Lama. See this picture. Stand next to a very great Pope or some Christian or some Islamic scholar or some. No religion is spared, please. All the religions have all this tamasha, and it's quite possible that a good number of people go for some basking in reflected glory. Now, who is to judge? I don't want to judge. I'm only saying there are possibilities. I cannot judge anybody. If somebody is close to, you know, a Swamiji, a very well-known Swamiji, president of Ramakrishna Mission, somebody says, some Agrawal in Mumbai says, when Ramakrishna Mission Swamis come, they invariably visit my house and have meal with me. They say. Now, who am I to judge? Mr. Agrawal is basking in reflected glory, or he has certain mature and true love, true regard, true appreciation for that Swamiji who comes. So I don't want to judge, but I want to, in these words, only say that there is a high degree of possibility of we human beings, you know, taking false comfort in some association. It is said, let me not spare you on Krishnaji, not directly on Krishnaji. It is said about a lot of people who attended Krishnaji's talks year after year, that they went there for some respectability. It seems in those days, if you are attending lectures of J. Krishnamurti, that meant that you are a certain intellectual of some order. You know? So that is also an escape. Therefore, there is nothing, we are saying about Krishnamurti or his talks. But some people attending those lectures probably use that also as a respectable escape. So let me not go on and on. I would like to conclude and say that there is a great responsibility that you and I have in life. Our greatest responsibility is to be truly aware, truly watch what is, and not run away from it. Create some kind of comfort zone and escape into it. Escape is moving away from what is, and freedom seems to be ours only when we learn the very, very subtle, intricate skill of staying with what is. Staying with what is, in contrast to escaping away to what should be, what could be, how nice this is to be like this, to become, and so on. Thank you.
Are you able to hear me, sir? Yes.
Yeah.
Harshad sir and Swamiji has explained escape in a very good way. But according to me, in Krishnamurti's teachings, this is the most debatable and controversial issue. First, we see what JK has to say on escape, and then we will see what is possible and what is not. JK says, attachment is an escape. One is attached to something because he believes he is dependent on that thing, as he feels that through that attachment he gains certain energy. So basically, again and again here, energy issue is coming. So we have to focus on this issue. Why one goes for an escape? Swamiji has already told that he gets some enjoyment and all that and relaxation and all. So this is the important issue in this. Example, for comfort, for prestige, for social position, etc., I depend on something because that covers my emptiness, shallowness, my stupidity, my loneliness, my insufficiency, etc. So I depend, which means I am being afraid of being lonely. So behind this escape, the problem is loneliness. And loneliness means depletion of energy. When the energy is depleted, one feels lonely and all that, depressed and frustrated and all that. Therefore, I feel it with clothes or with ideas or with persons, drugs, sex, or something else. So I discovered it was an escape. The attachment escape from fear. Basically, there is a fear behind it. Once discovered, who is aware of it? One part, a fragment of my mind which says, I am lonely. In that time, there is a division. As long as there is a division, there is an escape. Therefore, if you are really realize that it's an escape, as attachment is my escape from, then you drop that escape. So he says that then you drop that escape. Once you understood the truth behind it, you can drop the escape. All the things like I listen to the radio because music makes me happy. It takes me away from myself. Books and knowledge are also a very convenient escape from myself. And all these things, I depend. Why should I not escape from myself? I have nothing to be proud of, and by identified with my wife, who is much better than I am, I get away from myself. Of course, the vast majority escape from themselves. But then you become dependent. As dependence grows stronger and stronger, escape becomes more essential in proportion to the fear of what is. And escape becomes extraordinarily important. So observing all this, what am I to do about it? You cannot do anything about it. Whatever is done is activity of escape. Then you will see you are not different or separate from the hollowness. You are that insufficiency. The observer is observed emptiness. Then if you proceed further, there is no longer calling it loneliness. The terming of it has ceased. If you proceed still further, which is rather arduous, the thing known as loneliness is not. There is complete cessation of loneliness, emptiness of the thinker as the thought. This alone puts an end to fear. Any movement away from what is an escape, as Swamiji said. The urge to resolve a problem is an escape, as I have not understood it, studied it, explored it, do not know the beauty or the ugliness or depth of it. All I am concerned with is to resolve it, put it away. The urge to resolve a problem is an escape, and it becomes another problem. Every escape breeds problem. To free the mind of observer, no escape is possible. Do not escape. Do not seek, but face the fact of what you are. The motive of our escape is to escape from impermanency, from sorrow, into what the mind thinks is the state of permanency, of everlasting bliss. But that very thought is impermanent. Escape, suppression, or any movement away from the fact is a waste of energy. It is the only the confusement that wants experience in order to escape from confusion. After escaping, the thing to which you have escaped to becomes all important. Your religion, your nationalism, your leader, your guru, your ideas, your sense, all the escape from the central issue, which is that you are in conflict and misery. Ideals and utopias offer means of escape from actually what is. Being confused, being afraid, being guilty, little-minded, petty, anxious, fearful, greedy, acquisitive, being all that, can I face it without any ideals? Ideals are an escape. This is what JK says. According to my view, what JK is saying as escape is a natural process. It is associated with the rest, relaxation, comfort, convenience, and ultimately pleasure. Swamiji also said about displeasure. So the question is, can a person remain or live without pleasure? This is a very important question, because 60 or more than 60% of your life is a pleasure, is for pleasure. Your activities are for pleasure. If yes, how many? This seems to be like tradition talking of renunciation. Yes, it is okay to say that it creates division and one should face the fact and only truth can liberate. But this requires free-flowing, fresh energy. And if it is not available, then time is involved in dropping the escape. You cannot drop all of a sudden the escape. You need a fresh and energy, fresh energy with freedom. Then only you can possibly drop that escape or any attachment for that. Even it need be, first you have to gain that energy. And then only you can will be in a position to tackle this fact and avoid escape. Thank you. What Swamiji has to say?
Yeah. Yeah, as usual, you have covered a good amount of ground. Part of it you said again what I had mentioned and gave your opinion on it. But it was nice that you said that where there is attachment, there is fear, and then nobody likes fear. Fear is a very uncomfortable feeling. So we want to run away from fear. And you are very frank. Dinesh ji has been very frank that this is a natural phenomenon. Everybody wants some rest, some relaxation, and the world is full of things which give us instant relaxation. But at what price is the question. Uh, so bringing these together, fear, pleasure, attachment, and also you talked about how energy. If you are attached to some, it can be person also, or it can be an activity. With regard to that activity to which you are attached, there is so much energy available. But then somebody says, please come help me in another activity. And you are not attached to that other activity. You have certain dislike for that other activity. Then you say, oh, I'm so tired, I can't help you today. So, how interesting. This is exactly where we call things psychological. There is functional, there is psychological. Functional is indispensable till our last breath to live in a nice way. We need to keep our functional skills. But psychological, by definition here in this context, is where the separate self raises its head, and then there is fear, then there is desire, and all that. So I was trying to say that in your comments, I should compliment you. You have covered so many psychological dimensions, you which are the breeding ground. They are the breeding ground for getting more and more attached. They are like quicksand, daldal. You further go down, and then you frantically seek some escape or the other. So all I can say is this escape is a tremendous challenge in life. In fact, after I concluded speaking words a while ago and handed over to you practically, it occurred to me, am I coming to these Thursday dialogues of this Indore group as an escape? For both humor and seriously, I would say this, because there could be to an extent, even these dialogues could be a respectable escape. So you can tell others, intellectuals. Nowadays I don't go to movies or plays or all that. I join Krishnamurti dialogues. I don't have a collar today, but if I have a collar, I could lift my collar and though it is not all that respected or appreciated or liked by many people in the society. That's a different question. There are people who don't appreciate Krishnamurti. There are people who don't regard this dialogue of ours as worth anything at all. That's a different matter. But we have some friends whose eyebrows go up when we tell them we attend Krishnamurti dialogues. Oh, really? I can't understand. It all goes above my head. How come you are into it? You must be a great intellectual, they say. And our ego is very satisfied by that or by that. So that's what I can submit at this moment. Let me hear again some more, and I'll perhaps stay till 7:20 or so today. Thank you.
I think Adeen wants to speak.
Adeen, please come
Yeah,
forward.
yeah. So, yeah, first of all, thank you for choosing this topic because it's something which I also want to deeply explore. So, this escape somehow I feel is connected to the issue of division or conflict, which I have been exploring for the past 2 days by myself. So, the word escape itself, it indicates to me that there is some sort of division movement away from what is. I think Swamiji and also Dineshji and Harshadji brought up this movement away from what is to what should be. So that itself indicates to me some sense of division in the mind when there is a movement away from what is. And this movement, it seems to me, is nothing else than what you can call the thought or thinker. Why I say this now, I can take an example on this. Is suppose I go for a retreat somewhere and my mind is silent and there are no triggers in my mind. It's a little bit more silent. It's a beautiful place and I don't need to do much. There is some peace in the mind. So in such a situation, I don't escape into my work, or I don't start thinking about my work because my mind is peaceful. So when my mind is peaceful, it doesn't escape. But suppose I come back and then I have all those triggers and all those emotions come up. Then the mind starts to escape. It might think about the time it had the retreat. It will look when is the next retreat and all that. So in that case, when the mind is at peace and there is no sense of division, there seems to be no escape. But when the mind is in conflict and probably in daily life cannot face itself, then it escapes. And also, like I have noticed that when the mind is listening, suppose we are listening to Krishnamurti's video or something, if the mind is listening and there is no, you don't carry anything away from that listening after the talk is over. But if we carry away something from it or we find a conclusion, then it seems to be an escape. So earlier, many years ago also, by listening to Krishnamurti, I think thought used to always try to find a solution in words. So I used to carry a small diary and in which I would write some word which I thought would be a solution away from the problem. And I would carry that in my pocket and I try to implement it in daily life after reading Krishnamurti. Could be some word like choiceless awareness or stay with what is, or I don't know, many words you can accumulate from his talks. But it never worked like that. Trying to, store it and then implement it later as thought. So somehow it seems that the thought itself is a form of escape. I know it sounds very, uh, a very big thing to say. The thought itself is a form of escape from something. So this issue of escape or division, or because Swamiji, you also have said that you have a background in Vedanta. So it's from what I don't know much about it, but from what I understand, it's an exploration in non-division or non-duality. Or so I assume that it means that there is no escape. So this question of division is something which interests me. And how does this division end in the mind so that there is no escape? You can call it staying with what is, because whatever the mind does is a form of escape ultimately. So, yeah. Is it that the mind recognizes that the movement of thought is an illusion, or is this division is not a reality, that it stops escaping? For example, there's a war going on, so both sides, they don't talk about what is, right? They don't look into what is, they don't listen to each other. they are caught in what should be. So America would say this is how it should be, and Russia would say this is how it should be. And then they say, no, we cannot talk with each other. We have to solve it on the battlefield. So no one seems to stay with what is, or look at what is, perceive what is. But it seems to be very tricky because the mind functions in division, and that division becomes a memory, and it becomes a habit. And then the habit repeats itself, like somehow as a thought, and it goes round and round. Like I gave the example, you find some solution in thought and you try to implement it. It doesn't work. So this question of division, maybe I would like you to touch on that. Yeah. Yeah,
Swamiji.
thank you.
Chaitanya Nagar, please. Chaitanya Nagar, sir, please.
Swamiji,
Unmute
can
it.
you comment on Adeen's comment?
After Chaitanya Nagar's
Chaitanya
say,
Nagar, I have tried to unmute him, but he's not unmuting himself.
Nagar sir, is there any problem with you? He's raising hand. Separate.
I think he found a escape route to go somewhere else.
No. I am just trying.
Okay, good. Glad to know you are with what is.
And again, he has muted himself.
Technical issue.
Hello. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Chaitanya, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because the host, Sushilji, was not letting me unmute myself. So that was the only technical problem I had.
No, basically,
Okay. Am I audible now?
Chaitanya, sir.
Yeah, audible,
Yes.
audible.
We normally mute everybody.
Okay. Is it okay? Is that problem fixed? Am I audible now?
Okay, you are audible. You can continue.
I had a. Thank you so much, Chidanandji,
Yeah.
for your very, I think, profound talk. But there's one question that comes to my mind. Is there, before we talk about escape and various ways in which we escape, gross and subtle, is it not important to find out what is my true work in life? Because unless I have discovered that, maybe I don't even know that I'm escaping. I may even ask whether, often people say, find out what you truly love doing. Now, what exactly does that mean? Can we say that Van Gogh, great painter, who was never able to even sell even a single painting that he made, but just kept painting away passionately. And he found what he loved doing was K. Krishnamurti, who talked for 60, 70 years. Had he found what was he truly in love with, or was he also escaping from something? So that is my question, actually, because people who read Krishnamurti, who are familiar with his teachings, they may come to an understanding, to their dismay, that even thinking is a kind of escape. And they don't know then what to do, because thinking is something that we keep doing all the time. So if you take away my thinking also, my emotions also, maybe different escape routes that I take. But then if I don't find out what is my true work, what is the true purpose for which I live, then I'm escaping all the time. And so my question, I just want to be brief, because I'm aware that there are number of people in this group, and many of them want to ask questions. My question is, can you think of an act, a form, a kind of action which is not an escape? We know about so many different kinds of escapes happening all the time. I'm bored, I switch on the TV. I'm bored with TV, I attend a dialogue. Maybe all these are different kinds of escape. But is there something that we have ever done which is not a kind of escape? Even for people who think they have found what they really love doing. Bhimsen Joshi, Virat Kohli, or someone who really passionately does, it seems he has given all his energy, all his time to what he is doing. And visibly, it's very, very obvious that they enjoy doing what they are. But are they also not indulging in different kinds of escapes? So again, is there something which is not an escape? And if you know that there is an act which is not, because it should be applicable to all of us, not just to one human being, because somebody may love painting, may get completely absorbed in it, and start maybe deluding himself into believing that he was, from the moment he was born, he was cut out to be a painter, because that's what he does and he loves doing. But maybe he's just deluding himself into believing that. So how do we know? And if there is something that is not an escape, it seems logical to me that it should be applicable to all of us. That should not apply just to one human being, but to everybody. Yeah, I think that's it. I was just, because when I raised my question, I think I was more clear, but then some people, they spoke before I spoke, so maybe I lost the original question somewhat, but just trying to reorganize it, rephrase it again. Yeah, that's it. Chidanandji, if you can address this, it would be interesting for me.
Chidanandji, would you please? Chidanandji, would you
Yeah, I
please?
will speak just for 2 minutes. I would like to hear if Harshadji and others have something to say, but I think among several things that my good friend Chaitanya talked, one is there anything which is not an escape? Is there anything which is not an escape? With regard to that, I will say two things. One is, yes, there does exist when you and I, once in a while, do something very functional, and we really don't have the self operating in us. We are doing it with some care. We don't have to use the big word love. We are doing it with some care, with some attention, and we are not hoping for some self gratification, nor are we fearing some kind of disapproval or criticism. But something is interesting and we do it. And moreover, it's more of a negation when there is absence of several, movements of thought, but there is only functional thinking. I may be repairing, let's say, a clock, and I'm giving very, good attention to what component should go where. And there I use functional knowledge. I have repaired some clocks, let us say, in the past. Therefore, that functional memory also is brought into the picture. But in repairing this clock, let's say mechanical clock, suppose my mind is not harboring either desire for appreciation from somebody or fear of some disapproval, then there is a case of no escape. I'm doing it with full attention. Second thing I want to mention is we should not mix up absorption with an activity of no escape. So great singers, great painters, etc. Great, we respect them, but sometimes they might have gone into what is called absorption. It's not that consciously um, they have been doing it. They are into a little bit of a dreamy state. I think Krishnaji has talked about how a child getting very, very absorbed in a toy, in some dolls, etc. And somewhere he said that is no different from a scientist being absorbed in his experiment. First, you and I will shudder at that thought. We think that scientist, oh my God, big experiment, some advanced scientific challenge. How can you compare him with this child? But internally, there is a certain escape in that. Whereas I am talking of not escape, not absorption is an escape. Or maybe unconsciously one gets so much into something. But if someone can engage in certain activity, which is not out of will, but out of certain, maturity that has come upon that person, the person is engaging in an activity where, thanks to that inner cleansing which has taken place, there is no hope or there is no fear. It seems to me that that's possible. And you and I also occasionally are into it. But these very wise people, whom we call illumined people, etc., for them it has become their second nature. For us, once in a while it may happen. That's what I think.
Pradeep ji.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Thank you very much, friends. Listening to all the speakers, starting from Harshad ji, then Waghmare ji, Adeen, and all these, they have told virtually everything, but still, in each thing there is a catch for me. So I have jotted down a few points. Recently, in Chaitanya talked about the work you love. He was quoting Vincent van Gogh. Then, whether that is love or obsession, because there is a beautiful book on this thing, Van Gogh Blues, the psychology of that painter. And other novel is also there on his life, how he was running short of money and he was always banking on his brother Theo. So what we are calling as love, whether it is love or obsession, first thing. Then another important thing is what Harshadji said it in the beginning itself, which is very difficult for me to understand. Freedom is in the beginning. The whole thing, escape, this whole topic is about freedom from the known. Because in what form fear appears to each one of us, it is always as a thought. And thought means a past that has troubled us in some way. You see, so freedom from now, he said, Harshad Bhai, freedom is in the beginning. Now that is the tricky point. How to find the beginning in a continuum? You see, I am a continuum of life. To find a beginning there with so many inherited, then every day there is a new challenge, you see. And so freedom from the known is one thing. Another is fear of the unknown. Although JK said, how can you fear the unknown when you don't know anything about it? This whole thing, this known muddles this and makes every moment, the present, fearful, you see. So that is another thing. The very fact we are discussing this even today shows the complexity, which is not as per se complex, but in me complexity maybe, always it is me. the whole thing, the whole message is come back to yourself. Am I free from fear? Am I free? Then only I can be, if I am sincere and honest about my fear and attentive to look into it, then things will definitely happen the way these have been discussed. Then another very interesting thing Chidanandji talked about is deceptive reality. I like this very much. So I will say I, to be on, others may feel offended. I may be suffering from deceptive reality, which comes as a word to me in the form of word, in the form of text, something I have heard time and again, repetitions. So I am saying clear, but that is a deceptive reality. So another thing is that all the organized religions have contributed to the fear we all are in some way or the other, is reward and punishment. Most of the religions have given in some form, either in karma or in the form of Islamic, that punishment, or in Christianity, something justice or whatever it is. So it has contributed, that is deeply in us. So they have, so-called religions have contributed in their own way. I think I have given all the important points I find. Thank you very much, friends. These are all the points which I could find important.
Dineshji.
I want to just discuss about this question raised by Nagar Saab, that whether is there any work or is there any action which is not escape. So practically, if we see, if we study deeply the JK's wordings, you have to face the fact, and there is possibility the fact may be against me. I may not like it, because fact is decided by the environment or the mob. Say, for example, I have to go to the office daily. I may not be liking the job, but I have to go. So I have to face the fact. And since I am not liking the job, I am not loving that job, I may be having more depletion of energy. If I am having more depletion of energy and I don't have any other option available with me, say for example, I don't do meditation, or I don't know meditation and all other things, which are the right ways of increasing or enhancing the energy, then I will go for some cricket matching, or some football matching, or some drinks, or some other activity. So basically, we see that in this case, my going to office is not an escape, and I know, and this saying that to see the football match and to see the this another activity is an escape is debatable. It is really debatable, because it's a need of the work, because that becomes a fact in the evening, that you are with that. Noise somewhere, because in the evening that becomes the need, and that becomes a fact, that I should have this energy. So from what I should do, I have to replenish that energy. So I should go for either sleeping, or I should go for sleep, or I should go for seeing a match, or whatever it is. So, and as far as love is concerned, Krishnamurti himself has said that love is basically what love Krishnamurti has defined is unknown. He has clearly said that all love available in the this thing nature is divisive, and in a relationship you can't find that love which he is talking. So it is very clear that you have to face the fact, and whatever fact you are facing, that cannot be said to be escape. And whatever is, say you are doing, your friend is pursuing you that why we should go to the movie and that, and you are not interested, but she is to support him or to maintain the relation, you have to go to movie, then that may be called as escape. This is what I have to say. Thank you.
Hareshwar Singh.
Harshad.
Hareshwar Singh first. Not able to unmute? Harishji, you are not
Okay.
able to unmute?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, namaskar to everyone. Chidanandji, while dealing with some of the routes of escape, he gave a striking example that some of us, or we all at some point or other, we take pride in talking about our proximity, our closeness to some celebrities. They may be cricket stars or Bollywood stars or whatever it is. And that taking pride in that and talking about it or hobnobbing with them may be one of the popular escape routes. Personally, I feel that when we see company of such people, it is a kind of, I may be wrong, but and maybe in certain cases it is not. But when I seek, closeness or friendship with such celebs, it is a manifestation of low self-esteem. On the other hand, we have so-called motivational speakers who remind us that we should have, high self-esteem. We should not suffer from low self-esteem. My question is simple. When the so-called self-esteem is a virtue, and when uh, uh, it is an egoistic movement? Thank you.
Swamiji,
Yeah.
do you want to answer the question of Hariji?
No, that did not register very well, though I knew what you commented upon. But I want to, since you called me, I want to say something. I think Adeen said, is thought itself an escape? You see, we use the word thought as an operation of the self. When there is self operating, that is thought which is then described as causing problems. Thought is the culprit, thought does mischief. When we say that thought is necessarily the construction of the self, separate self. And yes, when there is thought, there is escape. And when there is the flame of attention, thought subsides, the self subsides. But one should not be concerned with that. If one says, I'm going to put this thought down, then that one who is trying to, make thought subside, that itself becomes another formation of the self. So thought itself is escape, probably is an acceptable statement. When there is thought, time, self, and this escape, all of them go together. He also raised wonderful thoughts, wonderful ideas. Escape happens when there is division. Escape happens when there is conflict. So once more, this conflict, division, they are on the same plane. They could go together. They are all birds of the same feather. So I was just wish to appreciate that. And Harish, though I heard sort of it didn't register very well, another time. Thank you.
Prasad Mulupuri.
Oh, sorry. I think I have not unmuted. I just want to say something slightly somewhat different from Swamiji. I don't think a thought is an escape, because escapes are those avenues into which we can voluntarily enter. Whether it is a cinema or a lottery or a football or whatever, they are all escapes because voluntary. You are voluntary. The control is in your hands. If you don't want to go, you don't have to go. But thought is not like that. That is my impression. Thought is something which happens to you, whether willy-nilly, they say like that. That is, whether you want it or not, the thought happens. So to that extent, it is not possibly an escape. Escape is something over which you have control. Here you have no control, and that is self. The self is, you have no control over yourself. You are just, you are subjected to it, that's all. Whether you want it or not, it is like a surgical operation. The thought happens. From your past, it happens. You think it should not happen. It happens. So, in my opinion, sir, it is not an escape. Thank you. That's all.
Already the time has passed 7:30. So thanks all. And we should end the meeting. Harshad ji?
Yeah, thank you.
Or do you want to comment anything?
I have many things, but time is over. So
Okay. Thanks, sir. Thanks, everybody.